Let's duck up to the Hunter Valley now in Cessnock and catch up with Labor Frontbencher Joel Fitzgibbon. He's the Resources and Agriculture spokesperson. I wouldn't mind you being the arts spokesperson today as well, Joel.
I'm sorry, but I'm a Philistine, Chris.
A proud Philistine. Now, what do you think? What do you think of the government's $250 million package? Is going to keep a lot of people, even roadies, the Prime Minister said, in jobs. Surely that's a good thing.
I proudly played footy with the Cessnock Goannas. Look, it's a good thing. It's belated. And, of course, Tony Burke and others on our side have been calling for it for a long time. As you know, they were basically cut out of the JobKeeper program, and the sector's been devastated. And it's an important sector culturally. It's an important sector to all of us. We all have a concert or a show or the opera or whatever it might be. But it's been a real tragedy to those who are directly involved in the industry and, of course, those who support them, the roadies, etc. So it's a welcome package, but it should have come a lot sooner.
Yeah, there's no doubt that you've had Labor politicians and others calling for this for a long time, but it's out there now. I suppose I'm just interested to get your thoughts in the fact that Guy Sebastian turned up there to support this package. A lot of people in the arts community have been lobbying the government for this, but he's then pilloried on social media for daring to have anything to do with a fascist like Scott Morrison. Do you sometimes just, shake your head at social media and this sort of intolerance?
Yeah, the keyboard warriors are out and about. I've noticed, Chris, one hand on the keyboard, Shardy in the other hand. I mean, it's a bit crazy. I mean, let me go back to my footy analogies. If the NRL was on its knees because it hadn't received any government support, and I was an NRL player, I might be dreaming, and I'd been lobbying the government to do something about it, and the Prime Minister asked me to stand up with him to make an announcement, well, then whatever I thought of the Prime Minister, I could be a die-hard Labor voter, I'd stand up with the Prime Minister. So I think this is just crazy and frankly disappointing.
I think you're right. Now, your leader, Anthony Albanese, made a landmark speech this week, a big focus on climate policy, looking to get some sort of bipartisan consensus again. You're given a lot of credit for dragging him to this position, but do you really think there's much prospect of ending the climate wars between the two major parties?
Well, yesterday I was saying I hope so, and I said if Scott Morrison didn't accept our extended hand, then he'd have to explain to the Australian community why not. But 24 hours on, it's quite clear that he has no intention, given what Angus Taylor and Josh Frydenberg have had to say, of accepting the bipartisan offer. Why, Chris? Because he thinks that the climate wars have delivered him 3 elections now. So he's effectively addicted to the climate wars, and he wants them to stick around. Now, that's good in his mind for his political fortunes, but it's not a good thing for the country. We have to put this investor uncertainty and investment drought behind us to get electricity prices lower, to put downward pressure on carbon emissions and, of course, to create jobs, or worse, to stop the decline in jobs which has been caused by this investment uncertainty.
But Anthony Albanese is talking about getting bipartisan agreement around some sort of mechanism to manage the electricity sector. He won't agree on targets. And in the end, it's the emissions reductions targets that's going to drive the extent of whatever action is decided upon. So surely he's got it the wrong way around. If you want bipartisan agreement, you need to get bipartisan agreement on a target so we know the extent of the action in this country.
Well, we'd like to get bipartisan agreement on zero net emissions by 2050. We certainly have it with all of the state premiers, both Labor and Liberal. We certainly have the support of the National Farmers Federation, the Resources Councils, the big energy companies, Qantas, you name it, the Clean Energy Council, they are all on board for zero net emissions. So we'd be very happy if the Prime Minister came to some sort of a bipartisan arrangement on that as well.
But, 2030 is where it's at, isn't it? Yeah, we're really not going to go to the next election talking about what's happening in 2050, are we?
Well, the problem with 2030 is that it's very, very clear that Scott Morrison can't achieve his own more modest target by 2030. Emissions have been flatlining now for a number of years, and there's not a hope in Hades save for a significant technological breakthrough, of him getting anywhere near that target. So he can have a 2030 target, but there's not much point if there's no hope of him meeting it.
Now, when you were talking technology, are you open to nuclear? A lot of people on the Labor side are not. Officially, Labor's not. Are you open to that debate?
I'd make it clear, Chris, that I don't have an ideological opposition to nuclear. As you know, many countries, the US, about 20% of their energy comes from nuclear. In France, I think it's more like 70%. The UK has nuclear energy. So I don't have any philosophical opposition, but I just don't see it as a reality in Australia. I don't think it's economical. I don't think anyone will ever invest in it. We don't have a civil industry here, so we don't have the skills to support the sector. But most importantly, Chris, you can be in doubt about some parts of public opinion, but there is no doubt that the Australian community doesn't want nuclear energy in this country. We don't need to have it. It's expensive. And of course, it's always interesting, Chris, to ask those who do support it whether they'd have it in their own hometown. Resources Minister Keith Pitt, the latest, is a great supporter of nuclear energy, but he doesn't want it in his backyard.
Hang on, though. People don't want a coal-fired power station in their backyard. They don't want nuclear power in their backyard. They don't want wind farms in their backyard. They don't want solar farms in their backyard. I think it's a problem putting power generation anywhere.
I think, Chris, it's a bit easier to convince the community on the merits of a wind farm than it is a nuclear generator, quite frankly.
In some places.